Hey, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well today. It's Father's Day, and I just have been at home with my husband having a great day out at the swimming pool and decided that I was going to go ahead and do a video on gut health. And I want to basically give you an overview, why it's so important, and why I use the products that I do. Just a brief little overview, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so I'm going to go to share screen, and where did it go? Here we go. Okay, so now, gosh, this thing's in my way. Hold on. Here we go, slideshow. All right, so a happy gut equals a healthy, happy you. So we're going to talk a little bit about prebiotics and probiotics and why they're so important. Okay, so this gives you a schematic of what the gut actually entails. So it really starts with the salivary glands that are in your mouth, and you can see the esophagus, the tongue, all of that is part of the digestive system. Esophagus goes down into the stomach. The liver is very important. The liver delivers bile and other enzymes along with the pancreas to help you digest your food. And then it gets into the small intestine. Our small intestine is very, very large to give us the space to absorb all of the nutrients we eat. And then the large intestine is mostly to eliminate waste and to reabsorb water. And then, of course, we then eliminate the waste. And what you'll see, I've heard statistics, I don't know what it is, but our intestine is very, very long. You have to have a long intestine to be able to digest vegetables. Meats, like cats, have a smaller or not as long of a digestive system because it doesn't take, it's not so much work, I guess, to digest animal protein as it is vegetable protein. So we have a long one because we're actually omnivores. Now, if you look at this kind of schematic of the microbiology of the intestine, you can see that it's a one cell layer thick. That is the only barrier we have between the inside of our body, our bloodstream, and the outside where all of the pollutants are. And you see those little, they kind of look like cow udders, but it's called a brush border. It's supposed to be like a brush. And that is adding more surface area so that we can actually absorb more nutrients. And each one of those little fingers also has little fingers off of it. So it greatly increases our ability to absorb in our surface area. Now, each of those cells is held together with a glue, kind of a tight junction is what they call it. And what's happening nowadays is toxins are causing those gap junctions or tight junctions to be broken apart. When that happens, then things that aren't supposed to get into our bloodstream get into our bloodstream, such as food particles. That's one of the main reasons we have food allergies that are getting worse. And when food enters our bloodstream, our body reacts against it, our immune system does. Any kind of protein or any foreign substance, the body is designed to react against it. And that is one of the setups for autoimmune disease when our body's attacking itself, because it's attacking what it sees as foreign because it shouldn't be there. And so this is very similar to what our blood-brain barrier is like too. It has a system with tight junctions as well. So when these foreign particles get into the bloodstream, that causes inflammation, autoimmunity, and you're malabsorbing your nutrients because they're going into the bloodstream undigested. And also things are getting into the brain. Dr. Bredesen just published a book on end of Alzheimer's disease, and he looked at all autopsy studies, found mold, Lyme disease, all kinds of spirochetes in our brain. They're not supposed to be there. And bacteria. Okay, now this gives you an immunofluorescence slide of the tight junctions. Over here on the left, you'll see the kind of fluorescent yellow-green. That is where they're all intact, and these blue things are the cells, and you can see the nuclei in the cell. Now, then the next slide is 6 minutes, next one 10 minutes, next one is 16 minutes after eating a hamburger from a corn-fed cow. Now, corn is all genetically modified, GMO, unless you buy it organic. And the genetically modified corn has glyphosate or Roundup in it. And the Roundup or glyphosate is responsible for blowing apart these tight junctions. Now this, you may say, oh, I don't eat hamburger, I eat organic. And that's great. I'm a very big advocate for organic, but the problem is this glyphosate's become a huge problem. It's getting into our groundwater because it's so widely used. And even organic food is now being compromised by the glyphosate. But you can see this is the standard American diet, SAD, and you can see the sources of where you're getting this GMO corn. The high fructose corn syrup is one of the biggest offending ways it's getting in, because everything has been put, or high fructose corn syrup has been put into so many products, because even to our subconscious, that sweet taste makes you want more. And the food industry wants to sell more food. Okay, so what do we do about this problem? Well, we need to take probiotics. Now, when I first started functional medicine back in the 90s, I really thought probiotics were just for a short-time use. When you had a problem with your gut, you would take the probiotic until your gut healed and got well. And that's what I did for years. But I realize now, with this ongoing glyphosate problem, that we really can't stay healthy without taking a probiotic on a chronic basis. I test people's stool. In fact, when I was doing this in the 90s, people would come in with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, these new diagnoses, Gulf War illness that nobody really understood. I would check their stool, because I said, you can't be healthy if you don't have a healthy gut or microbiome. That was very progressive, I think, at the time. I mean, most people were not doing that and didn't understand how big a picture the microbiome played in health. Now it's become commonplace, and even conventional medicine understands this. So there are over 500 strains of bacteria that we have in our body, and that's called the microbiome. The macrobiome is more like worms and things like that exist in our gut. But we're talking about the microscopic bacteria, viruses, yeast, and things that we harbor. Okay, this gives you an idea of what probiotic functions are in our body, or the bacteria we have in it. Very, very important for digestion. That's the main role most people think of, but it's important to maintain, to not develop coronary artery disease, to maintain good oral health, to not have dental caries. The other very interesting, nitric oxide production is very important to keep our circulation healthy, keep our blood vessels open. You have to have the right bacteria and the right intake of nitrogen to be able to utilize that nitrogen in the production of nitric oxide. And so if you're using mouthwashes on a regular basis that kill the good bacteria, you're actually decreasing your nitric oxide production, which is not a good thing. It's very important to prevent diabetes and other diseases, urinary tract infections, for women, particularly vaginal infections, even a reduction in blood pressure. So really, it's the whole gamut, the immune system and the digestive system, the circulatory system. It's all critical that you have a good microbiome. So this gives you another thing, what I was just talking about, basically the functions of the probiotic. The immune system actually starts in the intestine, 80% of it, in these Peyer's patches that are in the small intestine. 80% of our neurotransmitters actually are made in the gut and then rapidly transported to the brain. If you don't have a healthy microbiome and you have the wrong bacteria, you cannot maintain a normal weight, whether it's too thin or obesity, and generally obesity is the bigger problem. And we talked a little bit about allergies and how you need to have an intact tight junctions to be able to prevent allergies. Okay, so how do we get the intestinal dysfunction? One of the biggest things was the glyphosate I talked to you about, but also an infection. You come down, say, with an infection, salmonella, for instance, or you go to another country and you get a parasite. That's going to disrupt your microbiome. Antibiotics are a huge culprit. And then eating foods that our animals have eaten antibiotics are causing problems. I don't know if you know, but babies born via C-section do not get the proper indoctrination of bacteria, and they have more digestive issues. And actually, I hate to say it, but studies have shown that their intelligence isn't as high compared to vaginal birth babies, and it has to do with the critical microbiome that you need. Although my firstborn was a C-section, and she's brilliant, so it's not 100%. Diet, huge. If you're eating sugar, you're going to grow bad bacteria. You basically, what you eat determines what type of microbiome you're growing. Radiation, medications. I said the C-section there. Stress and allergies. Stress is huge. High cortisols over time cause you to have a horrible microbiome and grow the wrong bacteria, and that causes obesity and all kinds of other problems. So what do we want to do? Well, we have to take a probiotic, and I believe that everybody needs to be on a probiotic long term. The other thing we're going to talk about a little bit more is I'm finding that these probiotics don't stick around. So we need a prebiotic. We need to feed them the foods they need to take. You can't just take a probiotic and expect it to stay, because they're just not doing that. Now, they did a lot better 20 years ago, but our environment has changed. So when you're looking for a probiotic, you need to look at what kind of strains and what you're trying to treat, how many colony forming units or CFUs, how it's delivered, and what we're going to talk a little bit about is the addition of beta glucan in my favorite product. And you also need to look at the storage, the shelf life, whether it's refrigerated or not. Okay, these will show you the strains of my favorite probiotic, which is made by LifeVantage and is called ProBio. And any probiotic that I look at, if they don't have these basic strains, I'm not going to use it as a basic, because you need these 6 strains to have a healthy microbiome. Now, we talk a lot about diversity, and you want diversity, but if you don't, you need these 6 to be able to be diverse and to grow other bacteria. Now, I do use other probiotics. I target them depending on what I'm looking for. Like if somebody has been on antibiotics or I'm trying to prevent C. difficile, I will add a probiotic that has Saccharomyces boulardii, because that's been shown to help. Sometimes I use spore-forming bacteria that the spores actually pass through the stomach acid. Sometimes I'll use one that has a bacteriophage that goes after bad bacteria and kind of just eats them. But these are the basics that you need. And you can see the different roles that each of these bacteria play, and they're very important. I like the ones, the tumor fighter. It's very good. So anyway, the technology, why this is the ProBio is one that I really love, is the BioTrack technology that is freeze-dried. It's a little round ball, and it's time release. So it's released over 10 to 12 hours. There's at least a 60% survival rate of the stomach acid on a full stomach. On an empty stomach, it's about 85%. Most of the probiotics out there do not have acid-resistant technology or just mildly acid-resistant. So about 4% of the probiotic actually reaches the small or large intestine. And so it's a numbers game. But what I really like about this is it delivers the lactobacillus to the small intestine and the bifidobacteria to the lower intestine. I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't used this probiotic, because it only has 6 billion. And I really didn't expect much when I started to use it, but it rapidly overtook any other probiotic that I ever used because of the feedback I was getting from my patients. It was life-changing for them. They were having normal bowel movements for their first time in up to 10 years. So it became my go-to and my most used probiotic. This is an addition that I really like, is the Wellmune. It is a purified beta-glucan. Beta-glucan, you just have to look it up, or Wellmune, but it has so many good studies on how it helps the immune system, decreases inflammation, improves your mood, but it's advocated in a lot of the holistic cancer treatments. Now, this is another wonderful benefit of this probiotic, is it doesn't need to be in a refrigerator. I can't tell you the number of bottles that I had prior to this that sat in my refrigerator till they expired because I forgot to take it. And not, being able to take it on an empty stomach. I would forget in the morning, and then it was just, I never did it. So the lack of having a refrigerator, I think, is really, really a plus. So that is my choice for a healthy gut, and it has made I've used probiotics, guys, for almost 30 years in my practice, and I've never had one that consistently performed as this one does. So we're going to talk a little bit about prebiotics. Haven't used these as much. I've used fructooligosaccharides, FOS, a great deal in the past. And I've targeted use of prebiotics, but this one is really exciting because I love the ingredients in it and what they do. So we're going to go through this. Again, I told you before that it's very difficult to get the bacteria to stay put, and this is designed to help with that. So you have to think of your intestine as it's a garden. And what we're doing here is adding the water, the sunlight, the fertilizer, helping those good bacteria stay put and grow. And these are the ingredients in the Physique prebiotic. The oligosaccharide, 2 types of fructo-oligosaccharides. And I just look at that as the food that the bacteria eats. Inulin, and we'll go into that in great detail. Brown seaweed extract, an amino acid blend of L-glutamine, L-leucine, and L-lysine. Stevia is the sweetener, which is a natural sweetener, and blood orange flavor that's actually really good. Okay, so the prebiotic blend has been clinically proven to modify your gut microbiota and to grow more healthy bacteria. The brown seaweed has data that helps support the immune system and promote the growth of your beneficial microbes to bacteria. And then the amino acids, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about them, but what we have are these cells in the gut that are L cells that signal the brain until the brain is full. They basically taste food. Okay, so I love this about inulin. It comes from chicory root. It absorbs water, and so the analogy I give is kind of like if you take Metamucil, psyllium fiber, or you eat a pancake. When it absorbs water, it kind of blows up in your stomach. And the good part about that is you feel full, and you feel full for a long time, so it helps you decrease the calorie intake. So the best time to take this is actually before your biggest meal, so that it'll reduce your appetite. Now, it naturally ferments the intestine, encouraging the good bacteria to grow. That improves the immune system, and it helps seal those tight junctions, which we talked about, to stop the leaky gut. And it also removes toxins. Anytime you give a soluble fiber like that, it can help remove toxins through the waste in your lower intestine. And also, much like psyllium powder, it has been shown to lower cholesterol. And increased calcium absorption may help the bone health as well. The brown seaweed has studies showing that it lowers triglycerides and increases your IgE, which is one of your immunoglobulins that is just vital, really one of the main ones that helps your immune system, and it also helps with your weight. Now, the amino acid blend, I love it because it's tasting your food and it's helping you make better food choices so that you don't want the sugary foods, but you want the healthier foods. It's tasting bitter and sweet. But I'm studying a course right now on peptides, and they're talking a lot about L-glutamine. 60% of our muscles are made of L-glutamine, and then 50% of the amino acids in our body are L-glutamine. And the next most important is L-leucine, which that are the top 2 in this blend. So you really need that, because if you can build lean body mass, you reduce your blood sugar, your insulin resistance, and that has been shown to help with longevity. So basically, when you take this along with the probiotic, you're going to feel less hungry. You're supporting those good bacteria to grow. Very healthy environment, helps you digest your food and absorb your nutrients better, and helps maintain healthy blood sugars. And the fiber will help promote your bowel regularity. So basically, happy gut equals a happy you. And so let's get on it, guys. Let's be healthy and improve our gut health. Thank you for tuning in today. I appreciate it. And goodbye.